why you say that? Because this is what will happen before attached to the head-on camera, and then. Right, so all the way in the back, what I understand, is the briefing room chair mic that will happen during the actual briefing. But the mic I'm speaking to now is coming down the feed with the camera. You're listening to this. This is what we usually do, but today is special. We're doing something totally different.
Yes.
The live comes to you straight hot, but I won't plug it. I have no control over the live, but it's gone, so you can identify it. Yeah, it's a stick mic, 1098 on 65432. You have me? Yeah, hold on one second.
Thanks, Brad.
Yes, 1098 7654321. This is for specials.
Yeah, New York, it's rooted White House.
I believe them hooked up.
I don't know what to say. Do you have anything else open up here? Is podium open? Channel 1 open? This shouldn't because we'll be here in just 3? Okay. Is your camera mic on? All right, how about now? Can't hear me at all now?
Can't hear it all now. Or you know what?
What's that? This should be in mine, not AES.
So did it?
All right, stand by. Who am I speaking with? You are. What's your name, Sam?
Rear.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Let me go there, Sheriff.
Can you hear me? Do you see me moving up there, Ron?
What's that?
You see the meters moving? Do you see the meters on the camera moving?
1, 2, and 3.
Correct, yep.
1098, do y'all hear me now, New York?
Well, they were waiting for you.
New York? Do you hear me?
It's into,
We're online. Let me,
Switch up.
let me call, get a rep for you. Stand by.
You want to switch up so you make sure the board is ready?
So if you hear the camera mic, you should be hearing this.
Hey, it's Ruby. Please, tell me a little. Do you know what REM we are on? Right up to New York.
When I unplug
Hey, New York, we're on 98. 908.
I mean, ours is flattery.
Hey, guys. Check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Check. Check, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hands on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yes, I do hear you, loud and clear.
it'll share family.
He said he hears me now.
He's actually just the first, he's a year ahead of my birthday, and then like, he had it with my brother, so the two families were kind of jujitsu it, but she would watch the baby all day, and then pick up the two kids from school, but the guy was so expensive, and we.
I'm not hearing anything right now, no.
Previously, and Mike was kind of answered it, so there's like no money in that.
For those here for their hard pass appointments, please gather in 5 minutes at the stakeout outside. Again, for those here for their hard pass appointments, please gather in 5 minutes at 2 o'clock at the stakeout immediately outside the briefing room. Thank you.
Yes, is this New York talking to me? Yes, I can hear you. That's New York asking me. You're audio. No worries, no worries. We're loud and clear. I don't look like her, but yes, I do hear you loud and clear. Okay, no worries. Yes. Oh. Okay, I'm on the camera for you already, so I do hear. Gotcha. Yep. So we want to check the lockout guys, if we could. Check. Yeah. He says he wants to go for the whole thing, Mark, or do you want her to use the log when she sitting down?
Just because you're not using a lot of it.
I got you. Mark said stick mic the whole time. Gotcha. Loud and clear. We'll just stick Mark to sleep. You guys still need me, or are you good for now?
Yes, we're actually sending you numbers.
Okay.
We're down.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'll throw something in this list over there and then go through it. Right. So we just need someone. Yeah.
All right, I'll finish sharing.
Yeah, I did, but it took me
This producer just ran out to go.
No.
Alright, I'll leave it alone.
Yeah. Text me later. Yeah, are you here tomorrow? No, I'm off Friday, Monday. Because I'm in yeah. 7:15. I'm gonna text you a funny story. Okay. Text like bye. Yeah.
None of them got it.
Yeah. Like yeah, live here. Come in our house and like I mean that's why I was worried about like I thought it was gonna be find someone who could do whatever, like 3 to 6:30 or 5 to whatever because like it was how are you getting New York? There's like a million people want to go. Like in DC there's no place in the market for like what you're asking for.
You really want me out? Well, I just wanted to say that's left.
I hear y'all, yeah.
Talk to you, Peter.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
Yeah, they've encouraged masks.
Is he a stickler by nature? Yeah, but I was like,
Yeah, here y'all go.
He's like, I must be kind of, I can't also. Right. Well, that's how I felt about it, like, burning it.
I hear whoever you are right here. Hey guys, the POTUS video's up.
Right, how are you?
Do you guys hear me? Keep an eye out. Did you hear what I said? Is it out? It is on its way.
Sherry, do you need this item? No. Yeah. Right now, though.
Well, Sandra, I can safely say it's probably
It's
a lot
out now.
different
It's out
than
now.
when John was here 2 years ago and former President Trump
It's
got
out
the very
now.
same
It's out now.
diagnosis. The difference now with vaccines and boosters is quite noticeable. The White House position says that because the
It's out
President is
now.
twice
It's out now.
vaccinated and twice boosted, he expects that he will respond favorably. He's taking the antiviral drug Paxlovid, which is approved under the FDA emergency use authorization for high-risk patients as an additional protection against severe disease. The White House making an effort to show the president is still carrying out his duties while in isolation. They tweeted out a picture, which the White House.
Well, Aaron, we can tell you that the president just posted a new message in his own words, standing on the balcony to the White House residents just moments ago. We will pull that video for you, but he details that he's doing just fine. He's not wearing a mask in that video. Again, it was taken outside, but says he is doing just fine, that he has been, as you note, double vaccinated, double boosted, the most recent booster shot he received on March 30th. As for his condition at this time, we have now heard from the White House doctor, his physician, saying that the symptoms began last night, that he was fatigued, effectively he was tired, he had a runny nose, and also an occasional dry cough. The president, according to his doctor, is now taking Paxlovid, that antiviral pill that can be most effective in avoiding hospitalization or serious illness if you begin taking it within the first 5 days of the onset of symptoms. So obviously for the president, the ability to do that within the first 24 hours or so could certainly help benefit his condition going forward. There have been indications in the past that Paxlovid can also have a rebound effect, as experienced by Dr. Fauci in the past. So that's certainly something that the president's doctors will be eyeing. As it relates to how he will be cared for here at the White House, obviously the best medical care available to the president of the United States. But I am also told by a White House official that the White House has now reduced the resident staff, those staff members, the valets and butlers and other who help the first family inside the residence, to what they describe as an essential staff, a smaller number of individuals. Aaron, within a short period of time, we will hear from Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, and Dr. Ashish Jha, the COVID coordinator, to come out in better detail some of the other circumstances surrounding the president's condition. Among those, perhaps, how many individuals have now been identified as close contacts? How many other individuals, if any, here at the White House have tested positive? But most importantly, at least according to the vice president, he's in good spirits, and now, according to the president himself, he seems to be doing just fine.
Planned trip to Florida that was slated for Monday, Sandra.
It's really not clear at this time, and obviously, as too many people who have now had COVID in this country know, it's often impossible to know exactly where you did get it. Of course, the president last traveled overseas just over the course of the last week, arriving back in the United States aboard Air Force One late on Saturday. It's notable because we didn't see him again until Sunday when he went to church. On Tuesday, he met briefly outside with the First Lady, Olena Zelenska, President Zelensky of Ukraine's wife. He greeted her outside, and then the two of them, among others, met inside. And in the photos that we've seen, the president was unmasked during that visit. We've reached out to the Ukraine embassy to see whether or not the First Lady has been identified as a close contact. And then, of course, the president himself yesterday traveled aboard Air Force One. He went to Massachusetts there for an event. He flew aboard Air Force One alongside the Democratic congressional, both senators, the congressional delegation from Massachusetts, Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren, as well as some other lawmakers there. You have heard from Bob Casey, one of the senators from Pennsylvania today, saying he spoke to the president. The president, we're told, has made calls today that he continues to conduct his duties in full from the residence at this time, speaking to the vice president, speaking to his chief of staff, and speaking to others today, including James Clyburn, his friend, the Democratic lawmaker from the state of South Carolina, to wish him a happy birthday. Aaron. You guys should turn that video around. When are you going to turn that video? POTUS tweeted a video. Yeah.
Rodney, not yet.
Huh? Y'all don't see it?
I see it.
I'm watching it. You can't because of that? Yes. Put it down. You're safe. You're safe. We'll move. I'm on TV. I'll call you back.
Yep, I hear you, all right. I hear you, all right. How do you get, how's my level? Too hot? Right. No, I get it. Stand by.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time
What created the cough we used to always talk about? Is that reflux? What did they say? Remember?
Previously, reflux sounds right, but I haven't checked it today. But I feel like previous medical things, that might be correct. I can very quickly see what it is.
I'm on the phone with Tony Capper. I'm on the phone with Tony. He's coordinating. He'll let us know.
Hey guys, you can go to specials now.
Okay, I guess we can. Okay. All right. Thanks, Ed. Yeah.
He takes acid reflux
Okay, Ron, we get
medication,
down
I
to
think.
specials.
Reflux medication.
Okay, let me know if you want to come into a real level. Okay, hey, Stephen, this is a very important moment for President Biden. He just tweeted a video of himself explaining that he says he's all right. Doesn't sound good, Jessica. As a 79-year-old, certainly the White House is taking the precautions they think are necessary, including having the president go on the stand and fire.
Hey Alex, I hear you.
Too late.
That's how Mandel got it.
Home on the floor.
Usually I do the trip once, and he just, his month has been a disaster with stuff like this. And it's just like, his wife was away, so I'm gonna get everybody watching the cat. I'm due for round two.
As usual.
That's what I'm trying to get. He is gonna be doing it. And that was the first place where I put that interaction. We could tell you that on the road. So it's 4.5 weeks, so they got a picture.
Still gonna do that?
That one got canceled.
Okay.
Basically, a bunch of them actually. So I was curious to know, especially when you're thinking about that, I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. You know how it is.
Heads and kids, like, logistical nightmare.
You know, you don't watch
I think that's fine.
So, either way, it all worked out.
Good. Hopefully you were relaxed.
Sort of, it wasn't easy. It was not much. But my wife's daughter got it from me. Yeah. Yeah.
You took it the worst. You?
Just as a reminder.
My wife did pretty good.
Very good.
Good.
Yes, Rodney. No, thanks.
Should I,
No, thanks.
should I hear? Okay, thank you. Is it on?
10-9-8-7-6-5-4-3-2-1. Check one.
Hey, do you guys hear me in specials, please?
Now it's on.
Hey guys, can you guys interrupt me? Your side speaking up?
Yes, I do. Hi.
Hey Emma, are we gonna toss to the sound or how you all gonna do that?
Not yet.
Like the last.
Yeah, when they start turning it around.
So what it says, your priority question?
There's a better, so do you think you'll come to me in the top or not likely?
Oh, I am.
Okay, yeah, Sherry's right by. Yeah, we do it pretty much.
Say again, say again. I can get up quickly, but we don't have any indication if and when it's done, then Karine Jean-Pierre does a full briefing. Do we have any indication? So it's possible that he ends and she keeps talking.
So there's no No way.
I felt that.
That's why it was weird. I couldn't even see that. You know, it just felt like.
Yeah.
But, something. And I took it. It was just weird.
Mary, you hear Tom? Yes?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hey, David. They're not, I don't think they're coming over top.
From my rack.
So,
Mary, you don't want to stand in the box?
I think I'll figure it out. She hears the phone from my rack.
Israel's humid and
You were on the one that checked out for all of them?
but Jeddah on the Red Sea.
Yeah, caught it up. Here's the phone from my rack. No, I broke it. But what I'm saying is it's not my rack. Here's my rack.
Okay, and we also actually got triplets on her.
Not reaction. All right. Let me get up and I'll show you. Hold on a second. Is there any?
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold and everything smells like chalk. This is what I like. Sorry, it doesn't leave your memory.
no, it's
Pardon? You do, he hears him, she hears him. Do it again, yeah. You good? Okay, she's turning the wash now. Thank you, Mary. She's turning. Okay, is that something I did or no?
She was.
All right, stop the lid.
Oh, yes. Carol was sitting there on the board with my back to the sun. I grew up in Florida. Like the class there. Sitting there talking. I was in a good gig, and I was one of those people that you put on TV. What is this thing you call sunscreen? Yeah. Actually, he and I drove together.
Yeah, I was looking from, he is, it actually has, yeah, and it has a great,
Will you guys interrupt just so I make sure it's so clean? Thank you, Emma. Good.
Peter, is there any bruising on your arm or no?
I'll keep it my wife for that.
Two-minute warning debriefing. 2-minute warning debriefing. Thank you.
what about five? Well, that's brings me, it doesn't have but I didn't realize it would be coming, and I read it. And then, I drew up all the fun stuff that goes but yeah. And now learn, because I know sample preparation, and I'm like, every time.
All right, folks, so 2-minute warning to the White House press briefing. I haven't been on the microphone.
And now learn, because I know sample
1 second,
preparation,
folks.
and I'm like,
Trying to make sure everything is running smoothly. The streaming service is still giving us a lot of problems. Give me 1 second. So it's giving me a lot of problems still. I still don't understand what's going on with it. It just keeps something about the bit rate. I fixed it. I tried to do it, restarted everything, but it's just, I really do not know. Sometimes this happens once in a while, in a very long time, but we're trying to figure out. We're trying to get it fixed. Hopefully, in the near future, we'll get that all situated, or maybe it has to do something with OBS. I'm not sure. But Biden has COVID, and he just released a video saying that he's okay, mild symptoms, runny nose, tired, lethargic, all that stuff. He's on that antiviral medication, Paxlovid, I think that's what it's called. He tested positive this morning in one of his routine coronavirus tests. And as of right now, he's still at the White House. He's in the residence of the president. And yeah, so that's what's going on right now. We have a whole bunch of breaking news going on our website, goldenstatetimes.com. and also here on YouTube. So let's see what they have to say. Let's see how they're going to lie to us and say, oh, well, Biden didn't have COVID while he was in the Middle East. And Biden didn't have COVID while he was yesterday in front of a lot of people. So out of the blue, he caught COVID this morning. Ridiculous. He could have been COVID positive for a very long time. I mean, a couple days before he even got his positive thing. He was in front of everybody. Here we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you all know, I received a letter from the President's personal physician this morning. We released it to you shortly thereafter in the interest of transparency. I have the letter here, and I just want to read it through so we can get started, before we get started. This morning, as part of our routine screening program for the President, the SARS-CoV-2 virus was detected by antigen testing. This result was subsequently confirmed by a PCR test. On questioning, President Biden is currently experiencing mild symptoms, mostly a runny nose and fatigue, with an occasional dry cough, which started yesterday evening. Given that he meets USA Food and Drug Administration, FDA, Emergency Use Authority criteria for Paxlovid, I have recommended initiating such treatment. The President is fully vaccinated and twice boosted, so I anticipate that he will respond favorably as most maximally protected patients do. Early use of Paxlovid in this case provides additional protection against severe disease. He will isolate in accordance with CDC recommendations. I will keep your office updated with any changes in his condition or treatment plan. I also wanted to provide you with a brief readout of the President's activities today. The President has been working from the residence, like so many of us have during this pandemic, doing calls with senior staff, including the Chief of Staff, myself, and Dr. Jha, who's here with us. As we read out, the President also called Senator Casey, Representative Cartwright, mayors of Scranton, Mayor of Wilkesboro, and Representative Clyburn. The President also called a few of his cousins from Scranton who were set to attend today's event in Pennsylvania. And he spoke with Ambassador Giddenstein and Cornyn. You all have seen the photo he posted on and the video that was just released to all of you out of transparency moments ago. The President will continue to work from the residence. Today, as you all know, as I just mentioned, and as we sent out earlier, Dr. Ashish Jha, our COVID-19 response coordinator, is joining us today in the briefing room. And as I tweeted out earlier, Dr. Jha and I spoke to the President this morning, and he said he's feeling fine. He has a little dry cough, as I just mentioned from the doctor's letter, a little runny nose. He's feeling tired, but he's working very hard on behalf of the American people. And with that, Dr. Jha.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm pleased to be with you. As Karine mentioned, I spoke to the President earlier. I also spoke at length with Dr. O'Connor, who is the President's personal physician. And I'm happy to share the readout of these conversations with you, and then I'm happy to take questions. In terms of my conversation with the President, he sounded great. I asked him, Mr. President, how are you feeling? He said, I'm feeling fine. He said he was feeling fine. He had been working all morning. He hadn't even been able to finish his breakfast because he had just been busy. I encouraged him to finish his breakfast. In terms of my conversation with Dr. O'Connor, we talked at length about what happened this morning. As Karine mentioned, the President got his regular testing that he does on his regular cadence. After he tested positive, he reported these symptoms that have been described. Dr. O'Connor examined him thoroughly. He found his exam to be normal, to be at his baseline. And then obviously he recommended that the President take Paxlovid. The President accepted that recommendation and has started Paxlovid and has taken his first course already. I want to also just take a minute to sort of mark this moment. Because the President is fully vaccinated, double boosted, his risk of serious illness is dramatically lower. he's also getting treated with a very powerful antiviral, and that further reduces his risk of serious illness. And it's a reminder of the reason that we all work so hard to make sure that every American has the same level of protection that the president has, that every American has the same level of immunity, and why we have worked so hard to make sure that people have access to life-saving treatments like Paxlovid. These are incredibly important things for the president to have. They're incredibly important things for every American to have. And we have worked very hard over the last 18 months to make sure we have plenty of vaccines, that we have plenty of therapies, that people can get tested on a regular basis, as the president does, because testing allows you to identify an infection early and get started with treatment early. And we all know from medicine that early treatment is always better. Let me also take a moment to talk about BA.5. If you've listened to me at all in the last couple of weeks, you heard me talk a lot about this subvariant of Omicron that is now 70–80% of all infections in the United States. It's a reminder to everyone, if you are over 50, the way I am, the way many of you might be, if you are over the age of 50 and if you've not gotten a vaccine shot in the year 2022, you need to go get one. You need to go get one now, because it will dramatically improve your level of protection, reduce your risk of having serious illness. It's the best thing that people can be doing. Let me just finish by saying, obviously we work hard to protect the president, make sure he's been vaccinated and boosted, has access to treatments. We also have been working very, very hard to make sure every American has access to the same things. Because every American deserves access to the best vaccines, the best treatments, and they are widely available. And I want to use this moment to remind everybody of that and to remind everybody to avail themselves of that. Get vaccinated. If you have a breakthrough infection, get treated. It's the best thing you can do to protect yourself. Let me stop and take questions, and I know you will as well.
We'll both take questions, but go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jha. Has the president been tested to determine which variant he has? Is it BA.5? And if so, what does that say about his prognosis?
It's a great question. The virus has been sent off for sequencing. It takes usually about a week for that sequencing to come back. That's under normal circumstances. He's the president. The sequencing will get prioritized. So we should have an answer sooner than that. But you can't just tell from a regular test what kind of variant. So the sequencing results will be back at some point less than a week from now.
And has the president had to halt any of his regular medications now that he's taking Paxlovid? And what are you doing to mitigate the risk from halting those medications?
Yeah, so I had a conversation about this with Dr. O'Connor. There are two medicines he's on, Eliquis and Crestor, cholesterol-lowering medicine, and a blood thinner for his atrial fibrillation, both of which need to be stopped when you take Paxlovid. It's a very standard, common thing that we do when we give people Paxlovid. And you don't need to do anything in those circumstances. They both get stopped for the 5 days that he's on Paxlovid, and then they get restarted, and it's totally fine and pretty normal practice.
Where exactly was the president infected?
Where was he infected? I don't think we know. I certainly don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Look, I don't think that matters, right? I think what matters is we prepared for this moment. I think what matters is what Dr. Jha just laid out. If we look at where we were a year and a half ago, this is a president, when he walked in, one of his first priorities was to make sure we had a comprehensive plan to get people vaccinated. And so now today, look to today, more and more people are getting closer to having a more normal life. Vaccines are available, and as Dr. Jha said, if you have not gotten vaccinated, please do. If you have not, if you have not gotten boosted, please do. These are treatments that are going to keep you safe, and I think that's what matters here, is making sure that we continue to do the work. And the good thing is that the president again has been vaccinated and double boosted.
We know that rebound COVID cases have been a concern in some individuals who take Paxlovid. Are there any precautions you can take to try and prevent that, and how concerned are you that could potentially hinder his return to the office?
It's a great question. So let me tell you what we know about rebound. So we've looked at the clinical data on this, because if you look at Twitter, thinks it feels like everybody has rebound, but it turns out there's actually clinical data. If you look at major health systems that have given out Paxlovid to tens of thousands of people, rebound rates are around 5%. There are some studies that suggest maybe 7-8%, some that say it's 2%, but it's in the single digits. So it happens, it's not that frequent. But here's the key point about rebound, which is when people have rebound, they don't end up in the hospital, they don't end up particularly sick. And the goal of Paxlovid is to keep people from getting seriously ill. And so it continues to work. His physician is in charge of taking care of him. Obviously, the president will continue to be monitored as he is, but the Paxlovid is working really well at preventing serious illness, rebound or no rebound, and that's why he was offered it, and that's why the president took it.
And you mentioned the symptoms that the president has had so far: runny nose, fatigue, dry cough. What other symptoms are you looking out for at this point? Obviously, this is the beginning of this, and what would warrant hospitalization?
So right now he feels really well. Our expectation is that he's going to continue to have mild illness. And he's going to be monitored for symptoms. I mean, you ask him, kind of every day. I asked him, how is he feeling? Is he having any other symptoms? He's not. And I think we're going to continue monitoring that. And I don't, I think that is the plan right now, is that he's going to get care the way he would. I was going to say the way he would any other person. He's the president, so obviously he gets extra attention. But I don't think we have any expectations of any other symptoms at this point.
I'm going to go to the back. Go ahead, April. Come back.
I want to follow up on that on a couple of questions. So if the president's oxygen level went down, would he be a candidate to go to the hospital?
So at this point, I generally want to avoid hypotheticals. He is breathing well, his oxygen level is normal, and he's, I was going to say resting comfortably. He's actually not resting comfortably. He's working comfortably in his residence.
But that's not hypothetical in COVID, sir. And the next question, in this moment we understand that the incubation of COVID is 2 to 14 days. Has the White House reached out to those the president has been in contact with, in-person contact with, in that period of time?
So CDC has very clear protocols on this in terms of when people are contagious pre-symptoms. The White House Medical Unit is conducting right now a contact tracing, and they are contacting every single person who meets the CDC definition of a potentially close contact.
And speaking of the CDC, this last question, the CDC says if you are in a high-risk area, and a large swath of the nation is in a high-risk area, they recommend wearing masks indoors. In this White House, we're still seeing people back and forth. DC is is in that high category. Is there now a push to tell people to start wearing the mask indoors, especially as the president now we see has COVID?
I actually, off the top of my head, can't remember where DC is on the orange, yellow, green map. So I'm not going to kind of do this off. But the bottom line is we follow CDC guidelines, and the policy at the White House is to follow CDC guidelines in terms of mask wearing based on CDC's COVID community levels.
Go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you. Will the president resume public events in 5 days if he tests negative, or will the White House be more cautious and have him isolate for 10 days?
So the plan right now is to follow, it's actually, we do CDC guidelines, but we actually go beyond CDC guidelines. So he's certainly going to isolate for at least 5 days, and he will return to normal activities after he's had a negative test.
And I'm also curious, what precautions, we saw that video the president put out, what precautions did you take for the person who filmed the video?
Yeah, I just want to touch on a couple of things. So, look, right now we heard from the doctor, Dr. O'Connor, his personal doctor, and he has mild symptoms, and he's continuing to continue to do the work of the presidency from his residence, and I think that's important. And to your question, April, every person reacts to COVID differently. So it is a hypothetical, right? We're going to keep an eye. The doctor is going to keep an eye on him. I think what's important, though, and I really want to take this opportunity to say this, and Dr. Jha said this as well, is that he is vaccinated and he is double boosted, which gives him protection, right? Which makes it puts him in a good position, just like every other American that he fought so very hard for, to make sure that we had a comprehensive COVID plan to get people vaccinated, boosted, and also Paxlovid, right? And so what we need to know is he has mild symptoms, and he is going to continue to do his work, as we've seen from the video. Ashley, I'm going to take your question right now. Look, in the video that you saw, there was his videographer was there with him, wore an N95 mask, had the appropriate distance, the 6 feet distance, in the same situation as well with the photo. And as you saw in the video, he was outside, so we did that outside. And with the photo, he took off his mask so that the American people could see him and see directly, see the work that he's doing and that he's sitting at his desk continuing to do his work. But just wanted to give that. Go ahead, Dr. John. I don't know if there's. Go ahead.
Can I ask whether there was any consideration given to other treatments other than Paxlovid, such as a monoclonal? It's been unclear how the two work together. Is it more serious cases that get a monoclonal? Can you walk through that?
I think there are two good choices for therapies.
One or the other.
I think there are two good choices. There are people who get both. I think this was a decision made by Dr. O'Connor in consultation with certainly the president, the patient. And I also know that Dr. O'Connor spoke with infectious disease experts at Walter Reed and at George Washington University. That was all part of the plan, by the way. We'd always sort of planned that if the president got infected, we would consult with experts. He did, and based on that, that was a recommendation that Dr. O'Connor made, and the president accepted that recommendation.
Would that be an option if the case were to worsen? If someone who gets Paxlovid, things get worse, can they get a secondary?
In terms of his clinical care, first of all, Dr. O'Connor is going to drive that process with consultation from experts, not just at those institutions, really around the country. And I think he's going to make decisions based on what is happening with the president in his condition. Right now, the president's feeling well. He described it as himself as feeling fine with mild symptoms.
We've seen with rebound cases, second courses of Paxlovid. Would the president, if he had a rebound case, in other words, tested positive after testing negative, get a second course of Paxlovid?
A lot of hypotheticals there of lots of things that might happen down the road. I understand. No, it is, but it's hypothetical. The president feels fine right now. I don't think, I think we will cross that bridge if that happens, but at this point, really focus on just making sure the president continues to do well.
And I'm sorry, just very, very quickly, just to clear the timeline, he popped on a routine screening test and then spoke to doctors about his symptoms as opposed to saying, hey, I have symptoms, let's do a test. That's the order of things.
He was scheduled to get his test this morning. It came back positive. And on questioning, as I understand it from Dr. O'Connor, on questioning, reported that yes, he was having these mild symptoms.
And just to add, you guys saw him yesterday. He was in Massachusetts, Somerset. He spoke for 20 minutes in 93-degree weather. It was incredibly hot. He was feeling fine. Where most of us were looking for water and trying not to pass out, the president was delivering remarks on a very important issue on climate change, as you all saw. I do want to add just that. As we've stated, Dr. O'Connor, you all will get daily updates from Dr. O'Connor and how he's doing. So just wanted to add that, and we'll just continue to okay.
A couple simple questions, if I can. First of all, was the president ever identified as a close contact to anybody else in the course of the last 72 to 100 hours, say?
Not that I know of. Do you?
Well, I'll say this: the process is we are starting our process our protocol process on close contact.
Was he ever identified as a close contact to somebody else, though?
Oh, to someone else? That part we would have to find out. I can't speak to. What I can say is our process, because as we all stated, he is now positive. We are doing our process for our close contact.
So how many people have been identified as close contacts to him without detailing the specifics?
We are just starting our process, so I don't.
To this point, how many have been?
I'm just saying we're just starting our process. I don't have a number to read out to you. I told you that he called the members, the congressional members that traveled with him yesterday, but we're just starting out our process right now.
Has anyone else at the White House tested positive this week?
Well, as we normally do, if they are a close contact to the president, we normally provide that information. When I tested positive and I was a close contact out of abundance of caution, actually, I was not, but because I had traveled with him, we share that information. But we have a protocol here that we will continue to follow when it comes to who's a close contact to the president and making sure that we make that clear. And in December of last year, when he was traveling and there was someone who was a close contact to him, we shared that as well. So we've been transparent on that.
In simple terms, is anybody else in the West Wing or at the White House positive now?
Right now, all I can tell you, if they are, our protocol is, if they are a close contact with any of the principals, we share that information.
You can't say beyond that. Let me ask Dr. Jean one final question, if I can. We saw the president's video, and I understand the desire of the White House to show the president 6 feet away. The individual shooting it was wearing a mask. But for regular Americans who are watching this right now, what would your recommendation be? Should Americans who are positive for COVID, if they are in public or in any place at any time, always wear a mask?
So the CDC guidance on this is clear. People should isolate, and they should, if they're going to be in close contact with anybody else, they should definitely be wearing a mask. The president was more than 6 feet away from the camera person, who was wearing an N95. Again, in that video, you saw that it was outside. So I think it was, from a safety point of view, a very safe thing to do.
Thank you, Dr.
I can ask the last question of Dr. Jean.
I'm gonna call in everybody. I'm gonna call in everybody. I promise. I'm gonna call in everybody. Go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. Can you explain the testing cadence and the rationale behind it? You know, given the rise of BA.5 and the fact that the president's been traveling and having big events, why doesn't he get a daily test?
So the testing cadence is determined by Dr. O'Connor, his personal physician. He gets tested very regularly. I don't really think there's a huge advantage of testing like every day. I think.
Had he tested yesterday morning, for example, he might have tested positive in time to not go to that trip and expose any number of people, right?
The president, the protocol behind the president's testing has been both developed by Dr. O'Connor, but I think also has gone through a lot of vetting. It's what we use to protect the president and those around him, and it's been. I don't have anything else to say beyond the kind of the protocol we have.
Look, like Dr. Jean said, it is between him and his personal doctor on that protocol. He has a regular cadence, as we have spoken about before. We shared with all of you on Tuesday that he tested negative, and the reason why you saw him yesterday. I just said he was speaking in front of many of your colleagues outside for 20 minutes on a very, very hot day, and it wasn't until later in the day, in the evening, that he was feeling a little tired, and he was tested today. Look, this goes back to where we have come from, where we started. The president has done the work to make sure that more than 200 million people in this country have been vaccinated. More than 100 million people in this country have been boosted. That's because we have a comprehensive plan to make sure people get vaccinated so that they can be protected. And so that is what's most important here. He has mild symptoms, he continues to work, and like many Americans, this is
Close contact with crowds. In retrospect, was he too casual?
No. I mean, look,
Not at all.
I look at this, I've said this before from this podium, we have an incredibly contagious variant, and we've had a protocol that I think has done a very good job protecting the president. The most important part of that protocol, by the way, is making sure that he was up to date on his vaccines and we had access to treatments. The president wants to get out there and meet American people and engage, and we always said that this was a possibility. I think I even said it from this stage that this was a possibility, I think that the protocols have kept him from getting infected, but we knew that this was a possibility with this incredibly contagious variant. The good news is, and this was always the point, the good news is his immune system is very well protected given the 4 vaccine shots he's gotten. He's getting treatment. He has mild symptoms. He's feeling fine, his words.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Dr. Jean, if I could please ask you about the president's age. He's 79 years old. What level of concerns does that add when someone like him tests positive?
Very simply, I would begin with what's his immune status and what are his access to treatments, and the bottom line is, given how much immunity he has from vaccines, given that he was started on treatments right away, like literally had symptoms this morning, got started on Paxlovid this morning, I think all of those things very dramatically reduce his risk of serious illness. And that's really the goal here, is to prevent serious illness, to keep that risk as low as possible. I think he's gotten that full set of protections.
And in terms of monitoring his oxygen, is that something that will be done hourly, something that will be done a couple times a day? Just walk us through, if you could, the oxygen levels and the concern that could raise.
Yeah. I don't actually know how often. What I will say is that he's monitored very regularly. He's feeling well. His oxygen level was checked this morning. It was normal. And the exact sort of frequency of that is a decision between him and his physician, and really Dr. O'Connor making that call.
You said it doesn't matter where he got it, but how can it not matter where he got it if that is something that, of course, is involved in contact tracing? This administration has taken it very seriously. How can it not matter?
I think
what
I was trying to say is what's important now is that he has mild symptoms. Is that he knew this was going to happen. As Dr. Jha said, when he joined me at the briefing in the briefing room not too long ago, he said this is everyone was at some point everyone's going to get COVID. What is important is to make sure that you get the treatment that we have provided for folks. Whether it's make sure you get vaccinated, make sure you get boosted, and then we have Paxlovid that is made available because of this president. So what I'm trying to say is the moment that we're in right now is what matters as we're talking about the president and his treatment and how he's feeling and how he's continuing to work on behalf of the American public. I'm going to move around because I know there's a lot of Zolan. Go ahead.
Thank you. Karine, you said that he was feeling fine yesterday during his speech, but that he started to feel tired later on in the evening. I just want to clarify. Can you say exactly when he started feeling mild symptoms?
I cannot say exactly when that occurred. I could say that he told us this morning he had a runny nose, he had a dry cough, he was a little bit fatigued. He did say he had restless sleep, and when that occurred, and he got the antigen test. Tested positive, and then was given a PCR test. I cannot pinpoint the exact moment, and we were transparent. I got the letter from. We put out a statement as soon as we did the test and were able to put out the information. So we were transparent in giving out the statement. We were transparent in sending out the letter, and we will have daily updates from his doctor on his status.
In terms of the search for close contacts, I understand that's underway now, but there should still be able to be some confirmation of at least some individuals who were in close contact. He was with multiple members yesterday on Air Force One. He was with the First Lady of Ukraine as well on Tuesday. Can you tell us if the Vice President is a close contact, if those members that were on the plane are considered close contacts?
Yes. So when it comes to the Vice President, she spoke to this earlier today. She just gave comments and she spoke with the President. I will let her speak to that. You heard from the First Lady. Of course, she's the First Lady, and so she spoke. She said she tested negative, and clearly she is a close contact. Look, I'll say this. Our commitment since last July is to disclose when the president or one of the 4 principals is a close contact of staff who tested positive as defined by the CDC. This is a definition by the CDC, or when he tests positive, which is what we're doing to all of our review today. So, for example, we were transparent with the Vice President. We were when she tested positive, when the second gentleman tested positive, and we're doing that currently right now with him. So we are transparent when the President Biden was a close contact of a staff member, as I mentioned in December, but for privacy reasons, we will not get into more details as it relates to that. So we're starting the process. I don't have a number, a list of folks to share with you. I think that if I know some of your colleagues traveled with us, if there are any concerns or questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to, if you have personal questions about yourself, feel free to reach out.
I have one more. Just Ashley asked as well, I think, about moving forward the 5-day quarantine, whether or not he would immediately resume. I believe you said that he would quarantine for 5 days and then he would resume when he tests negative, but I just want the connective tissue here. If he tests negative on that 5th day, would he resume his schedule as normal?
Yeah, so the CDC's guidance on this is very clear. You have to isolate for 5 days. CDC says that you can resume after 5 days without a negative test, as long as you wear a well-fitting mask. We go above and beyond that at the White House, and the president will get tested. And as long as he's isolated for 5 days, meeting the kind of CDC requirement, we will wait until he gets a negative test, negative antigen test, before he returns to activity.
Go ahead, Steve.
How does the White House adjust having a president with COVID? Who has access to him? Is he staying in one room, a series of rooms? What's the physical situation?
So as I just stated, he is isolated in the White House residence. Look, the president could be a president anywhere, right? It doesn't matter where he's located. He has the technology, he has the tools, what he needs, the communications, what he needs to continue to doing his job.
And has staffing here been adjusted at all? Fewer people around?
There has been no change to our protocol as of date. I think you just asked. No, I gotta go around. Your colleagues are gonna kill me. I gotta go around. Go ahead, Tam. We'll go to the back.
I just want to parse the timeline a little bit. I think there may be a comma in the doctor's statement, and I just want to clarify. Did he start experiencing the cough last night, or all of the symptoms last night? I guess my question is, when did he start experiencing fatigue? When was the first sign of fatigue?
Yeah, I mean,
spoke to the doctor.
I spoke to the doctor. I spoke to the president. My understanding is, again, his doctor spent a lot more time with him than I. I mean, and I haven't spent time with the president. I just spoke to him on the phone. The president felt well all day yesterday. I think late in the evening, he felt some amount of fatigue. After a long day of travel, I don't know. There are a lot of late evenings where I feel some amount of fatigue. I don't know about all of you. He went to bed. I asked him how he slept. He said he just had a bit of a restless night. And this morning got his routine tests that he does. And then when Dr. O'Connor probed him further on symptoms, because he tested positive, that's when he mentioned, yeah, that maybe I was a little tired last night. So I really think his symptoms, you could say, either began late last night or early this morning.
Did he have any fatigue or runny nose or anything like that on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday?
He felt totally normal and said that he felt, at least to me, said he felt totally normal all day yesterday.
Has he experienced any fever or brain fog, other symptoms of COVID?
He's had no fever.
Okay, and could we get the president's physician here so that we can not play the game of telephone?
I don't think this is a game of telephone. You have Dr. Jha, who is a medical doctor himself, who runs our COVID-19 response. You're going to hear regularly to a statement from Dr. O'Connor. And so we are going to be as transparent as we are going to be transparent as we have been. We put out a statement this morning. We put out a letter from Dr. O'Connor. You have both of us here taking your questions and answering them. You saw a picture of the president, you saw a video of the president. And so we are doing this very differently, and we're going to continue to provide information for all of you and also the American public. I'm going to continue to go around. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. While doing contact tracing, will you reach out to some of the officials the president met last year while traveling abroad, or is that too far away?
Yeah, so contact tracing for people in the last 48 hours who were after he tested positive. So if somebody met with the president a week ago, they would not be considered a close contact.
You won't, search for maybe people like positive with COVID that he met like last week, or that's
Are we going to go looking a week ago to see who might have given? That's not. I mean, no. The purpose of contact tracing is to make sure that anybody who might have been exposed is so identified to prevent onward transmission.
Thanks, Karine. To follow up on Steve's question, I think you had said that there was no change to protocols here. Do you mean the West Wing for change of staffing protocols?
I think that was Steve's question. Okay. I just don't have an update on that.
How about the residents, though? Is there a reduction in staff while the president's in isolation?
Well,
and how are operations?
We're going to follow CDC guidance, right? Which is for the president to isolate and to make sure there is a very, very, very minimal footprint, because our goal is to make sure that we keep others safe.
So there are limited people that will be around the president for the next.
Yes, if anyone, to be quite honest, because we are going to follow CDC guidance.
And to follow on what you had said earlier about we'll be getting updates from Dr. O'Connor. Will that be statements every day
There'll be
coming
statements.
from you?
It'll be daily statements from. It could be directly from him. I believe it'll be directly from him, but you will get a daily statement. A daily.
Necessarily come here and do a briefing. With
We're
you
going
guys.
to give daily statements, just like we provided the letter with transparency. The letter he provided to me, we made sure that you all saw, and we'll continue to make sure that you guys get an update on the president on a daily basis. Okay, go ahead. And then I'll continue.
Just following up on Tam's question, actually, about Dr. O'Connor, there's obviously a few questions you can't answer about the timeline, about monoclonal antibody treatments, about the medications he's on. Why isn't he at the podium right now to answer
No, I
those questions?
believe Dr. Jha spoke to the medication he's on. The monoclonal, right? That is something that is, right now he's on Paxlovid, right? We're going to, if anything changes, we will be sure to share that. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to have daily updates to all of you. I think the letter that the president's doctor put out was pretty clear and specific, and said that he is on Paxlovid.
And just follow up on isolation. That's obviously different from quarantine. What does isolation mean in this White House, and what will happen to the First Lady when she returns?
So isolation, well, yeah, so just for everybody, they know, isolation is when you're positive and you're isolating. Quarantine is if you've been exposed. So that's the kind of difference in terminology. The isolation protocol is he's going to stay in his residence. We're going to absolutely minimize the footprint. I don't actually know what the plans are with the First Lady in terms of, I'm assuming she's going to stay isolated from the president as well. But that's a good, I don't know if you have anything more on the First Lady, but obviously I think she will continue. She will stay away from the president as well. That's her decision, though. We don't try to tell the First Lady what to do. I feel some trepidation talking about what the First Lady will do vis-a-vis the president.
So first of all, the First Lady spoke to this directly. She's feeling fine, so just want to make sure that's clear. And she's going to continue to follow the CDC guidance, and she's going to continue to wear a mask. And so that's what she is going to. That's what she's going to do moving forward. Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Jha, you talked about the testing cadence that he had, but while he has COVID, what's the testing cadence going to be? Will he be tested daily, and will those be rapid tests or PCR tests?
So I don't know that there's much value of a PCR test at this point because they'll be positive for a while, right? So I don't actually know what his testing cadence is going to be. Again, CDC does not recommend any testing for the first 5 days. He will obviously be positive for some period of time. He will stay in isolation for 5 days. He will definitely get tested after that, and will stay in isolation until he turns negative. But any testing he has moving forward will largely be an antigen test.
You said that his oxygen level was normal. Can you be more specific about what his oxygen level numbers were?
Yeah, he's feeling fine. He's breathing fine. His oxygen level was normal. He got a full physical exam. There were no issues or no concerns in Dr. O'Connor's assessment of him in terms of his physical exam.
And last question, I'm sorry. CDC guidance is people who are close contact, who are up to date on the vaccine, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Jha, are to wear a mask, a well-fitting mask, for 10 days after being possibly exposed to someone. You were on the plane with the president yesterday. Others, members of staff weren't, and you're not wearing a mask.
Yeah, that's why when somebody was asking me, do we have a list of close contact, I am not considered a close contact. According to the CDC guidance, I am not considered a close contact.
Dr. Jha, can you expand on that? Why she's
I could expand on it myself. Yeah, sure, that's great. But according to the CDC guidance, yes, I was with the president, but it was under 15 minutes. I was with him in short amount of time. I was wearing my mask the whole time. So to your question, Peter, when you were asking me about that, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. There's a process that has to go through. And just because I was with the president yesterday, you all saw me with the president, I am not considered a close contact. Go ahead, Jackie.
Thanks, Karine. Paxlovid has emergency use authorization for patients who are at high risk for progression to severe disease. So clinically speaking, either because of this diagnosis or his age or any underlying conditions or otherwise, is the president at high risk for progression to severe disease?
So if you look at the EUA of the FDA, then it links to a CDC website that gives you what are the risk factors. And age is certainly one of them. And I have made the point that I think anyone over the age of 50 is somebody who is eligible for Paxlovid, and obviously people under 50 if they have serious chronic disease as well, but I believe anybody over the age of 50 is eligible for Paxlovid. The president is above the age of 50.
And then, can you just confirm for us that there were no positive cases around the president in the last couple of days, or that he was not a close contact of anyone who was positive?
I think you've answered this, but feel free.
Yeah, I've already answered. No, I did. I answered it. I told you what our protocols are, and we have said, I told you what our protocols were, and as we have been committed since the last July, we disclose when the president or one of the four principal is a close contact of a staff who tested positive as defined by the CDC. This is defined again by the CDC, or when he tests positive, as we are doing today, and being very transparent about that.
Wait, because we didn't hear from you that that's a no?
That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that when there is a close contact to the president, we actually give that information out, and we actually share that individual who's a staff member if they have tested positive. That has actually been our protocol since this past July. So a year.
So we didn't receive anything like that. So am I to assume that there was nothing that happened? There was no positive case where the president was a close contact?
Yes, you're safe to assume that, because that's what we have been committed to doing since the last July, which is about a year ago. Okay, we're going to continue. Go ahead.
The message that some people are going to take from this is that it's inevitable that everyone is going to get COVID at some point. I'm wondering if you think that's a reasonable assumption for people to make about this, and also what does this say about the state of the pandemic and how much longer this is going to be a part of our lives in this way?
Yeah, so based on the CDC data, about 70+% of Americans have been infected. And I have said, I think from this podium, that I don't believe that every American will be infected, but I think infections are obviously, given how incredibly contagious the current subvariant is, that Omicron has been in general, that we've seen a lot of Americans get infected. At this point in the state of the pandemic, I think our strategy on this has also been very, very clear. We have a two-pronged strategy. Number one is prevent serious illness, which I think is essential. And that strategy, as you've heard me articulate, is a combination of making sure people are up to date on their vaccines and getting treatments if they're eligible. And then the second part of the strategy is doing everything we can to keep infections down. And that's recommending masking in crowded indoor spaces in high transmission areas, making sure testing is widely available, working on improvements in indoor air quality and ventilation. Those are the things we're working on. And given that 70% of Americans have been infected, it's obviously a highly transmissible virus. And we are going to continue working on keeping both infections down and really working hard to make sure serious illness is limited. And I think, by the way, that is working. I mean, if you look at how many infections there have been, but where we are right now,